Nature is an oracle to a Swan Priestess, and there are so many ways that nature has really helped me and guided me in my life. And I would like to take you on a little journey to share some of these amazing things that have guided me profoundly in my life, and also give you some tips on ways that you can also connect with nature to find profound answers to some questions that you might be wanting more depth of understanding, or anything else that speaks to you and your heart and your soul. So one of the most incredible messages from Spirit that I've ever received was in my question to Spirit, asking what would be the best for guidance in whether or not we should have another child. Many of my intuitive friends were saying, definitely there's another spirit around that wants to come through and be your child. But I just kept getting this strong feeling that our family was complete with our one and only child. My husband felt the same, and so did our daughter. She was so happy being a one and only. Well, that day that we decided we were going to really sit and talk about it together, my husband and I, a beautiful cardinal came flying up and down at our window. And it was really flying very, chirping and flying with such intention. And we looked under to see what it could be trying to show us. And underneath our deck was this incredible Luna moth. Luna moths are beautiful moths that only live for 1 week, and the chance of ever seeing a Luna moth is close to none. So this was so powerful and took us back. When I looked up the meaning of Luna moth, it said to trust your own inner guidance and your own inner knowing. Well, I was floored by this experience, especially given the timing of it. So I went outside. We live in a forest, and I went outside in our back balcony, and I just wanted to sit down and drink a tea and just soak in all that gratitude and goodness of loving Spirit showing me a message like this when I really had this very important question. And I really needed that guidance. So I sat there just admiring the trees and just thanking nature for showing me. And I could not believe my eyes. There was a raccoon that was in the tree sleeping very close to me. And as I continued to look and see, I noticed that there was a baby with this raccoon. So it was a mother and one baby. That had me absolutely speechless. This happened just moments after this magical event with the cardinal and the Luna moth. And so I was just very curious after, and I looked up to see how common is it for raccoons to have just one baby in their litter, and it was also extremely rare. So this was a real clear sign from Spirit and from nature in the answer to my question. Another remarkable message from Spirit came when my daughter and I were in the forest together. We would take many nature walks together and just spend a lot of time out exploring and enjoying nature together. She was very young. She was about 2 years old, and we were crossing a bridge that had these really tall reeds. And out of nowhere, she screamed and said, "Mommy, stop." And I had no idea why she would say that, but something in me said, this must be a message. And so we just stood there and looked in the grass very carefully, just looked all around us. And to my utter shock, there was a garter snake, a ribbon snake, also known as a ribbon snake, that was coiled up at the top of these reeds, just sitting there and basking in the sun. That was remarkable, as these are very shy creatures, and these harmless snakes are very powerful messages from spirit. They are very revered in ancient cultures for being very spiritual creatures, and also really represent transition and times of death and rebirth and new renewal. And to my surprise, I ended up seeing with my daughter 2 more ribbon snakes within 2 weeks' time. I've only seen these very gentle, quiet, shy snakes once in my life before. And we saw them then, 3 different ones in 3 different forests within 2 weeks' time. So I just took a moment and I asked, Snake, Spirit, what is it that you want to share with me? And I heard very quickly within my mind, I could hear a message. It just said very quickly, there will be much conflict and disagreements among people. This was during the pandemic. And this is okay. That's part of their journey. But this is not going to be a part of your journey. You are to go deep within and really take your time and hibernate. This was right before the winter was coming. Take your time in solitude and quiet and go deep within. And you are going to birth something new. Well, that was the year that I wrote The Way of the Swan Priestess. So Snake Spirit really helped me with that, to be able to take the pandemic years to really use that, all that time for my creativity, for my unfolding, for this birth of this beautiful project of the awakening of the Swan Priestess within. So as I was putting this video together on a walk with my daughter again in the forest, we came across not 1, but 2 woodpeckers. And that was very magical to see 2 together. And the woodpecker's message is very much of connecting to nature. As well, while I've been making this video, for the first 2 days, I could hear the owl calling from right outside in the trees right outside of our home, and it was calling in the mornings for the first 2 days that I was making this film. I've recorded their sounds here for you to hear as well. And owls really represent that inner wisdom, the connection to the inner mystic within and this ancient knowledge. So for me, those 3 birds meant you are on the right track. Keep going. Messages in nature from spirit also can show up in plants and flowers, of course. And I give fairy camps in the summer for children. And the first day of fairy camp, this beautiful hibiscus plant blossomed on that one day that the children had to come indoors because of the heavy wind and rain that day. We weren't able to stay in the forest. And that was such a huge gift to the children and to me as a sign of the magic of fairies and the magic of nature spirits, because that blossom only lasts for 24 hours. So the chance of that happening while we were inside on that day was very small. So it was extremely magical. And finally, one of the last things I want to share with you is when I was asking Spirit to really let me know about the Swan Priestess program, some questions I had. I wanted to really make sure it was integrity, it was of the Creator's will, and I really wanted to check that, and I asked that. And then I went for a walk down into the stream where I live, and there in the ice was a swan. That was one of many messages that I was receiving, that all is well. And to simply trust, and to trust in what I was receiving as messages and what it was that I was giving out to the world. So all of the archetypes in the Swan Priestess really help to cultivate this ability to receive oracles from nature. Swan Priestess. If you've already participated in my Swan Priestess program, then you'll be really aware of these archetypes that I'm speaking of. But if not, that's okay, because they're all just natural and intrinsic within us. And so you'll be able to activate them and get to know them as well through this. It just takes pure intention of your heart and a real desire to do this. But of course, if you really allow yourself to dive into the depths of the archetypes, the stronger and stronger and more comfortable and natural this will become to you. So one really important archetype to start with is the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is that part that is very connected to nature, as Mother Gaia, as our Mother Earth, but also this sense of a Divine Mother within all of the universe, this loving force, this loving energy that loves us unconditionally, that nourishes us, it takes care of us, that just absolutely adores this individual expression that we each are, is very loving and fully accepting of all who you are. And she is really important to have, to access during this time when you're searching in nature or allowing and surrendering in nature to receiving oracles, because she, along with the sacred nymphs, really the sensual sacred nymphs and that archetype really help with calming our nervous system down. You have to be really in the space of the heart in order to receive these messages. When we're in a state of panic, fight or flight, our nervous system is not regulated, if we're in a triggered moment, all of these things, it's going to be harder to be able to access that part of your heart and your inner wisdom and that connection to the great all when we're in that state. So it's really about allowing yourself to get into a place where you feel really safe, where your nervous system is balanced. Now, the beautiful thing is that nature helps to balance our nervous system. So Mother Nature is already there helping through this process, but the gentle kindness of you, the self-compassion, the deep love and acceptance for yourself, for all that you're going to be receiving as a message, is really important and vital in this process. The first principle is to really embrace that we are truly one with nature, and that what we see in nature and the sort of characteristics and behaviors and expressions are parts that are going to be true to ourselves as well. The second principle is to also realize that nature is part of the sacred feminine, and it has an element and quality to it of the unconscious, of this very sort of rich primordial essence that is something that is not always understood by the logical mind. So it really calls you into a couple of the archetypes that we have in the Swan Priestess, which is the wild woman as one, that real, visceral, and bodily sort of innate, intuitive, sort of primal connection with nature, with your emotions, with your senses. So then that of course calls on the other archetype of the sensualist, and she is in the domain of the nymphs and the mermaids, and that very sensual awakening of all of our senses, and really, really pulling in the pleasures of the sounds and the feels and the sights and everything that nature brings to us. And then, of course, the archetype of the Divine Virgin, which is very playful and free and joyful, like you'd expect a fairy, a nature spirit to be just very whimsical and this extreme joy for life itself. And that wild energy that also has that softness, that innocence, and being, again, not part of the logical mind, but something in the sense of another realm. So the Divine Muse is a wonderful archetype to also help us in connecting to nature and receiving her oracles. So the Muse helps us to use and activate our imagination, our creativity, to see things beyond what we see with our eyes. And a wonderful example of that is when I had been laying down in a forest and I saw a leaf that very beautifully and gently fell from the sky. And this was not fall time, this was in the summer. It was very unexpected to have this leaf fall. And immediately what came to me was that a family member who was in a very long death process was finally ready to go and to let go with grace and beauty, and that it was going to be a wonderful, beautiful transition. And so that was the message that I received, and 2 days later, she passed. So this is an example, a very brief example, of being able to see that leaf as something other than it is, to see it in that poetic sense, that beautiful way that it's falling, or perhaps the noises that certain things make, or the rhythms, and being able to allow your imagination and your creativity, because that's a big part of the flow of our intuition. Accessing the inner queen, the divine queen within, this place within you that knows you are worthy, that knows you are one with the divine, that knows that you deserve goodness, and you also are allowed, and it is a sacred right to have boundaries, is also another important aspect of being able to receive messages from nature. When you are able to really know where it is that where you stop and where another begins, can really help you be centered in yourself, can really help you then to be able to receive these messages. And then there's the archetype of the priestess, where we're really calling spirit, whatever it is for you that is this greater force of love that you connect to and that you trust in, that you can ask for divine guidance when you go out into nature, and ask that you can have a sign to really show you, so that you'll be able to discover the oracles that are out there waiting for you. This is a review of the receptive states to receive oracles from nature. Be lovingly kind to yourself. With the Divine Mother within you and in nature, be lovingly kind, gentle, and supportive to yourself to create a safe space to open your heart. Be gentle with how you react to or judge your thoughts or what is coming to you. Be lovingly gentle with the nature around you. Open your senses. Alike the sacred nymphs and ladies of the lake archetype, allow your senses to open deeply and breathe in the pleasure of the sensations you feel in this deeply relaxed and open state. Notice what you see, smell, hear, and feel. Stay in this state for as long as you can while you connect with nature. Surrender. Alike the divine virgin archetype, allow yourself to surrender to your experience, not having any expectations and letting go of the need to control the message. This allows you to be fully receptive and receive messages. Be open and trusting in what comes spontaneously. Listen. Your message may come to you in different ways through your senses. You may hear something which sounds like your own voice in your head, just simply know or intuitively feel something, or see a vision in your mind, your inner eye. Allow for playfulness. Nature and spirit speaks to us from the realm of the soul, the unconscious mind, the intuitive, the wildly mysterious unknown. Let yourself be free, playful, and spontaneous. As much as you can, disengage with your rational, logical mind. Feel your boundaries. Like the Divine Queen archetype, know where your boundaries are. Feel into your body where you end and another begins, and honor your sacred space. This helps you know what messages are merely thoughts or wishful thinking, and those that are coming from spirit and nature. Allow for artful freedom. Since nature and spirit speak to us through the unconscious mind and live in the intuitive realm, notice the thoughts and sensations that arise from the poetic beauty of nature. What is the meaning that spontaneously comes to you in the sounds, textures, and sights of nature? Don't judge or rationalize, just be open and lovingly receptive to what comes to you. Know that messages from spirit are always supportive. The message you receive will feel caring and non-judgmental. Even if it's not the message you wanted, or it points you in a different direction than you'd hope for, it is lovingly clear and wise. And you feel that you can trust this message. Always remember that nature speaks to us continually. We need only to open our hearts and minds to its loving wisdom. I do hope this helped you connect more closely with nature, and I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below. Thank you for watching. You can find more at swanpriestess.com.